book lovers. I'm Ashley,
And I'm Kendall, and welcome to Bound by Fantasy.
the channel all about books and bookish things.
Today we're going to talk about A Court of Wings and Ruin. So we are doing part 3 of The Courts of Wings and Ruins when everything starts going down. So if you didn't watch part 1 and part 2, go back, comment, like, and share, and then join us back here for part 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so they first, so they have everything's going down. The wall is gone and the war's begun, right? So they need to first head to the Iranian camp to basically say, like, saddle up, war is coming. And in that scene, the thing that stuck out the most, and it definitely sticks out more to me now that I read Throne of Glass, which you need to read next. So, um, is they call Nesta a witch, right? They don't
Yes.
think of her as Fae. They're like, she's a witch. She can use spells and archaic tools. And they know that she's different. Like he already recognizes it when they go in there. So it just like after I read Third Glass, I was like, oh, like I like there might be a connection to this story. And that's the big thing about her books is they're all interconnected. It
Okay.
is supposed to be like a mass universe where everything's interconnected. So things that happen in Throne of Glass tie into the ACOTAR series, and ACOTAR ties in the Crescent City series. So like they all incorporate into each other. And so so I'm excited to see how that continues. But the fact that he mentioned that she's a witch, I am interesting to see how they take that
Yeah.
story, especially after I've read The Court of Silver Flames. So I want to, after you get done with that, we'll talk about my theory. Um, but after they head to the war camp, they then go to the human lands, right?
Right.
And something I kind of disagree with is they glamour Elaine. They glamour Elaine to look like a
Right.
human. And I mean, I kind of get it. But let's be real, like it's going to come out. She's appearing with all of these fae, like
Right.
in the sense they can't hide what she is forever. So I am torn when they do that. It just to me really proves that Elaine is not ready to give up her human life. She
Right.
wants to still get married. She wants to be with him
Yeah.
and she kind of wants to throw it away. And I mean, I granted this isn't something she planned on, so I feel for her there. But it's
Yeah.
just, it really saddens me that she really has not come to terms with it. This isn't something that's changing. So,
Agreed. Yeah. And also like I mean they realize very quickly that she's lying, right? And that they are
Mhm.
glamoring her, but it just felt like it was very dishonest toward her fiance too, and like dishonest to show up like that. Um, and that like that's gonna really cause more harm than good. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, I totally disagreed with it too. I'm like, I don't understand why they're doing that, especially because they're not glamoring anybody else. So it's
Like,
like, I mean, if they're not gonna let any of them in, like they're not gonna let any of them in, right? It's not gonna matter if she's glamored or not. So yeah, I don't know. I disagreed with that. Elaine's been kind of bugging me this whole book, so I've had issues with Elaine. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Like I can see what you're saying too with like she didn't choose this life for herself, right? But I just feel like she's had a while to deal with it now and she's just not dealt with it. And I feel like maybe she should have done a little bit better with that, or
Mhm.
like, her sisters have been very supportive and trying to help her. And I don't know. It just felt like she was clinging on to this like her past life. And I don't even know if it's that she like loved her fiance all that much. I think she was just clinging to the fact that she would like missed being human,
Right.
essentially. Yeah.
Right. And it kind of like shoots herself in the foot, right? Because he
Right.
knows. Grayson says, I know I already heard that you were Faye.
Mm-hmm.
And you came and you tried to lie to me, so I want nothing to do with you. He
Right.
does agree to take the humans, but like he's like, you already know your Faye. And he said, even the worst part is he knows that you're mated. Like,
Right.
so you come back here, you pretend to be a human, that you're not Fae, that you don't have a mate, and it just makes him mad. And then we find out who he learns this from, and it's Jurian.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, and he tries to, like, he tells them that, like, he wasn't working for Highburn, he was faking it, and he cares about the humans because he was a human.
Hmm.
And it's like hard to believe because like he's just, I don't know, he rings evil to me. I don't know how he rings to you. And I want to like him, but I don't know. Like I said before we talked, like he just took it too far with the Amarantha's sister, and it's hard for me to come back from that.
Right. So I'd suspected like really from the beginning that Jurian was not as bad as he like was being made out to be. And he reminded me a lot of like Reese. Like Reese sort of, that he like had to like be this bad person in order to like survive essentially. And to protect Polaris. And like I don't know that Jurian had as good of a reason to do it. I mean, he was brought back, by Highburn, and so I think he just sort of had to like go along with what Highburn wanted. Um, but yeah, I don't know. He just never seemed as evil as like he did, or well, like he was being made out to be, I guess. And like their conversation like around the fire in the spring court like really was standing out to me still. That, he seemed like he really did care about the I forget the children of the um I'm forgetting their names. So the people who were like, what's that?
Children of the Blessed.
Yes, Children of the Blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he really cared about them and like he was very upset that, they got killed.
Right.
So I don't know. I was surprised to see him there. Like that didn't really make a ton of sense to me. Um, but yeah, no, I was surprised. I wasn't super surprised that he's like a better person than, he was made out to be. The other thing is like he made himself to be a villain and like he made it out like he wanted to kill like Dracon and Miriam, but really he wanted to forgiveness. Um, so that was surprising. Like, because I did think like he was still like trying to go after them. But when he explained that like he wanted to ask for their forgiveness, I was like, is he or is he gonna attack them? Like, what's going on?
Right. So he does end up telling them about Tamlin, right? So
Mhm.
after the High Lord meeting, Tamlin runs right back to Highburn and tells them the plans and how Highburn plans to attack Summercourt the next day, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like Tamlin, I just
What are you
you're
doing?
burying yourself deeper, and I just don't understand. I don't understand
Right.
him.
Right. I don't know. I was not super surprised, but like I don't know. It's just frustrating because I want to be able to cheer for Tamlin, like I want to be like, Tamlin, you can do this, but I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I was not super surprised about that. It was really frustrating. So, yeah,
Right.
that was upsetting.
So when they're there and they're talking to jury, and obviously Grayson is not nice, and Nessa stands up
Mhm.
for her sister, which makes me proud. But in the grand scheme, like he does take them, so that's nice. And Elaine, I feel like kind of should have saw it coming, right? She's not Faye
Yeah,
anymore. Her fiance hates Faye, and I
right.
think she was a little bit delusional going in there thinking it was all going to
Oh,
be
yeah.
hunkadory, and it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I was like super happy when her fiance rejected her. I don't know. I was just like, yeah, I feel like you were really delusional thinking that it was gonna be fine. And like, yeah, he clearly hates Faye, right? And like even her like ring is an iron ring to like, you know,
Right.
which I'm like, you're Faye now. You can't wear that. Like, what are you doing? I know it has no effect, but still, like, I don't know. It just seems so wrong that she was still wearing the ring too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, she had
honestly, I was
hope.
like, Yeah,
But
I guess so. But yeah, I don't know. I was very frustrated with her. I was like, good riddance. Like, please, like, let's let that go.
see, I have more sympathy for Elaine and you have more for Jury, and we're on opposite sides on that side.
Yeah, no, we totally are. I had like no sympathy for Elaine. I was over her. She was very frustrated. But then
Um,
Jurian, I was like, okay, Jurian, I was rooting for him. That's funny.
so I mean, Jurian tells him about the plans to attack, and he talks about how they should attack a certain side the day that they attack because Hybern puts like more of his untrained people on that side.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I guess they like to like believe him. I know Reese looks into his mind, but I was just worried. Did you like think he was telling the truth or that they were taking like a super big risk?
I thought he was telling the truth, I guess, but like that goes with like my belief that Jurian was like actually a good person. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I did believe him, but also because like Reese did look into his mind too, right? So I don't know, that just had even more validation, I guess. But also like it was interesting to me because like all of them in the night court like have a past with Jurian too. And it was like as soon as they found out he like wasn't, evil, where like they kind of had all expected him to be, they were like, oh yeah, like you were always a nice guy before. And so it was like I thought that was odd that they all just believed the worst of him so fast. When like they had this background with him not being like that. I guess they have to like, what happened with Dracon and Miriam happened, right? But I don't know, it just didn't seem like they had a bad history. Like Reese and Moore and everybody had a bad history with Jurian specifically.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was interesting to me.
Well, besides that fact, they did go the war, right? So Reese
Hmm.
listens and he cloaks him and the Court of Nightmares forces and kind of like surprise attack. And they
Right.
push Hybern's forces right into Summer Court forces.
Hmm.
And they get wiped out, right? They surrender and then he ends up like drowning them all, which I was like, oh, okay. Um,
Right.
I was
That was
surprised a little bit
disturbing.
by that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, realistically, they were super evil, so it is what it is. But at least it like so they are kind of like riding a high, right? They're like, oh, we won. Turing wasn't lying, like his information worked in their favor. And they start like preparing for the next. Like they're going to go for the winter border and they want to make sure they get there and like help and set up a camp and dig trenches.
Hmm.
But when they are there, Highburn tricks them, right? So they
Right.
actually skirted around them completely and
Hmm.
they're going right for Wintercourt. They're going to go attack poor Wintercourt, who has already suffered so much because they're the court
Hmm.
that Amarantha attacked and killed a whole bunch of their young fae, right?
Right.
So, and it just bothered me. I was like, how did that happen? How did they just like bypass this whole army? And I
Right.
don't know.
No, it was super frustrating. Well, and Hybern's been like a step ahead of them like the entire way, right? So I'm wondering if like is the cauldron helping him? Like is it telling him where they
Right.
are or like what's going on here that he's just staying a step ahead of them all the time?
Right.
Or is there some sort of spy going on or something? I don't know. It just seemed odd that he was just always like a step ahead of them.
Right. And that's, I mean, when they go for the winter court, they glamour it, right? So and Reese work together and they put a glamour on it. So it looks like their army is still there, that they haven't moved.
Right.
And they end up meeting Highborn's forces and they're just getting like attacked, right?
Hmm.
And they realize like this is like a really powerful force, but it still isn't the army. Like it's not the true army. This isn't all the forces they know that Hybern has. And Feyre makes the decision to go find the Suriel. And
Hmm.
again, like I still like he like how do you just find him all the time, you know?
Right? I don't know.
So um they go to the Suriel, they go in she says, oh, she goes to Elaine, right, to find out where the Suriel is. And the Suriel he said that it's in the middle by the Weaver's Cottage. I mean, the place that she doesn't want to go, right?
Right.
So she goes there and she finds the Suriel, and he says exactly where the Hybern army is, and that the king is going to use the magic of the cauldron. But then the like I get so upset talking about this part. Because it's like all a trap, right? Um,
Yes.
like the whole thing, the coat that the cereal has on is like a tracker device to the worst person ever, Ianthe. And she's
Yeah.
there, and the cereal like sacrifices himself, right? Or herself, they never really said, to protect Feyre. And it's just, it's
Right.
so sad. I don't know, like, how did you feel
It's
when that
so
whole
sad.
thing was going?
I was really upset. Like I was so sad. I was crying. I was like, no, like it was so sad. And I, I don't know, like Feyre had like tried to help the serial in the past and stuff too. So yeah, I feel like they had this connection and the serial like wanted Feyre to find her as well. And Ianthe was like
Mhm.
so mad that the serial wouldn't tell her anything, but was telling Feyre things,
Correct.
right? So yeah,
Correct.
so I mean that was I'm curious like what does the serial know about Feyre that
Hmm.
like why so early on did the serial trust her, right? And like tell her things and like just be very open. And it was supposed to be this terrible force that would like try to kill you. So, but it never really did, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's just because she let the serial go and like help the serial escape before. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the serial maybe knows more than like we've even seen, I guess. That was sort of something I was wondering is like knows more about the future and what's going to happen with
Right.
Feyre. And maybe that's why the serial trusted her so much.
Right.
Um, yeah, I feel like they really let themselves get like trapped on purpose
Right.
almost. So yeah. And Ianthe was just so mad that, she's
Hmm.
like, you've trapped the serial several times and the serial's told you what you need to know and why won't it tell me what I need to know? Yeah.
Right. I'm actually, I can't wait for you to read the Game of Thrones or Game of Thrones, Throne of Glass, because there's a theory of who the serial is, and I can't wait to bounce that off of you and see
Okay.
if you think it is too. Um, so obviously Feyre has to hold the serial as the serial's dying, and it's a
Right.
really sad scene. And he tells run, like run, they're going to kill you. You need to run. And Feyre has a choice of like where to go. And I think it's super smart, super dangerous, but super smart. She runs to the Weaver Cottage, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
where she decides to go. And it's just a really, really smart idea. And the Weaver is like, girl, like you escaped me last time. This
Right.
isn't going to happen
What are you
again.
doing here? Yeah. And she's like, I
And
brought you, what'd she say? I brought you a snack or something, or I
yeah,
brought you dinner
yeah,
or something. I loved that part. Like, I was like so excited about that. Because Anthe's like, oh, you're gonna, like, you think this is gonna stop us? Like, we're just gonna come in, right? And yeah, little does she know.
yeah. She has no
Um,
idea what was really in there. And the Weaver
yeah,
does mention the Feyre that she knows Feyre was with her brother, right? The bone carver. She can like sense him on her. And I was like, oh,
right.
that's interesting. So is that why she hesitates long enough for Feyre to like say, "Don't eat me. I brought you somebody better."
Yeah.
And I really think that like luck's out for her.
Yeah.
So Ianthe goes in, the Weaver finally takes this girl out. Like she's gone
Yeah.
about time. And then we have a really sad scene where she runs back to Serial and kind of like just stays with him as he's dying.
Right.
And he tells her to leave the world a better place. And I just think that's such a powerful thing because again, it goes back to Feyre didn't want to leave that lower Fae at the Spring Court
Right.
when they find him and he's dying because she
Yeah.
said no one deserves to die alone. So the fact that she makes it back for the serial was really important to me. And I'm happy.
Yeah.
I was hoping they would obviously save the serial, but that wasn't part of the plan. But the fact that
Right.
she was there and the serial didn't have to die alone was really impactful.
Yeah, I think so. I also like, I feel like that quote really stuck with me too. Like the serial's last words to her. That was like one of my favorite quotes that I've read,
Mhm.
I think, in these books. It really stood out. Um,
Right.
I don't know. It was so sad, but it was just a beautiful like scene between the two of them too. Um, yeah, awful, and I do wish the serial had like made it, but also I don't know. I feel like everybody can't make it all the time either. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, it was, and I am glad that like IMP got taken out because it felt like justice for the serial too. So at least like IMP is not still kicking, and yeah, I don't know. That felt like a really like huge way for her to go too. Like that just felt like such a, I don't know, pretty cool way for her to go. So
Right. It's like an about time moment, right?
yeah,
Like about time this girl is gone.
right,
Um,
exactly.
so Helion comes and he takes her back, and Cassian is super hurt, right? When she gets back, and him and
Yes,
Rhys are kind of like arguing because Rhys gave him an order, he didn't follow it, and now he's like super
right,
hurt because of it. And then not only are they fighting, then Mor starts fighting with Feyre because she's mad. She said that like she just like abandoned him and didn't tell him and that she lied. And again, this sticks out to me because I've seen so many theories and we're definitely gonna have a discussion once you're done with all of the books. Um, and she says to Mor, like, Mor, you lie every day. And it's just like so powerful because Mor is supposed to be like the truth sayer or whatever, her truth power. And this is the second time she's been called a liar.
right,
And I don't know, it just gives me a little bit of an ick. Like, what's going on?
right.
Why are you now being called that?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she like
that's
calls her
true.
out. You know what I mean? She calls her out and says, why have you never made a move on Azriel
Ezreal.
and
Hmm.
you took healing into bed, though Azriel treats you better? What is going on with you? What did you think about
Right.
like the fight at that point?
So I was like, I get more being frustrated with Feyre because like Feyre like also like took off and left like for the spring court and didn't really tell anybody about it, right? And this is the second time she's done that. And also like it took them a long time to like forgive her, I feel like, for that because like she is their high lady and that's her job is to protect her. So, you know, I just thought like I get that part of it, but also I get Feyre saying like you lie all the time. And I really like enjoyed the fact that they were able to have a conversation about like Azriel and like that they
Mhm.
I feel like they had like a surface level friendship and I feel like this conversation like needed to happen for them to like really become really good friends and really close. And so I think like yeah, they were fighting, right? But I feel like something good came out of it. Like they definitely like understood each other a lot better. And I
Right.
think like,
And
you
more
know,
is like,
Feyre wasn't doing it to like be nasty. She was trying to like save them, right? But still, like, you can't just go disappear and do whatever the heck you want. Now, like, you are highly, and you probably
right.
need to like at least check in with everybody. And same with like Reese also gets mad at her too, and is like, you can do what you want, but just like ask, like pass me maybe, like let's just check in. Um,
Right.
so I don't know, I felt like they were all justified in that, and then I really liked Laura's conversation with her.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. What about you? What did you think? So we found out like Moore isn't interested in men at all, and that's
Mhm.
why she never wanted to be with Azriel, and she didn't want to open that door because she didn't want to hurt him, essentially. But like, why not just tell him that?
That's
Like,
what I don't understand. I
why?
don't
Yeah,
understand. They've been together for so long at this point.
right. For
And
centuries,
it's
not even like a couple years.
right. And it kind of makes me so mad because I love Az. And it's just like, stop leading him on when you know you're never
Right,
going to do anything. And it's just so depressing. Like,
right.
tell him. And I also
Yeah,
kind of like, it's a little weird for me that Az is like the spy master and he's never figured out her secret. You know?
yeah, that's true. True. But I mean, she has, I don't know. I feel like she has like been with a lot of men, right? So I think like he just, I don't know, is assuming, or maybe he doesn't want to look. Maybe he doesn't want to know. Like maybe he's trying to give her that secrecy or something or that privacy. I don't know. Maybe he tries not to use that on his friends. I don't
Right.
know. But yeah, no, I agree. But I was super mad. I'm like, okay, sure, that's fine. But like, why not tell him? Like, just tell him. It would be fine. Like, I'm sure, and then he could move on. But he's like so like obsessed with her and in love with her. But she's like not allowing him to move on. It just feels cruel. It felt really cruel to me.
I think so too.
Yeah. Especially because like, so she said, that like in her culture and like with her family and stuff that like that it would have just been so much worse for them to know, so she's always hidden it from everybody, but it's like she's been away from her family for a long time, she's been with them for a long time,
Correct.
like I don't know, that seemed wrong to me for sure.
I agree. I agree. So Feyre wakes up from a bad dream and she just feels like something is wrong. She doesn't like know what it is, right? And it turns out that the cauldron had lured Elaine away, and now Elaine is on enemy territory kidnapped. So
Right.
it's the worst case scenario. She's now kidnapped, and they have to make a plan to go get her. And I immediately, of course, Az was like, I'm gonna go get her. And I'm like, oh, Az.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes.
Yay.
Um, so I, of course, Az is going, and then Feyre is going. And Rhys can't go with them because they're gonna sense if he goes there, and he also has to like help lead the armies, right? So
Right.
it's kind of like a sneak attack. They're not doing an all front out attack on the camp. They're trying to sneak in, get out. And Az is the best at this, and Feyre is not going to let him go alone.
Right.
So when they get to the camp, unfortunately, they find so before they even go there, Feyre shifts into Ianthe, right? So, because she has the shape shifting talent, she shifts into Ianthe because they don't know if they know Ianthe's dead yet, but they do know
Right.
Ianthe was working with Hybern. So she's
Mm-hmm.
like, let me do this. Az can hide themselves in his shadows. It's the best case scenario to go in, get Elaine, and get out before they're noticed. But
Mm-hmm.
then they run into an issue when they get in there, right? And it's because she sees the children of the blessed girl hung on the wreck. They were torturing her. She's still alive. And it doesn't sit right with Feyre, right? When they
Right.
pass her.
Yeah.
And they see Jurian, and Jurian realizes instantly she's not an Anthe, which I'm still surprised about. I don't know about you, but I'm like, I feel like he has some kind of like sight or something because he was just so quick, like, you're not an Anthe. How did you
Right.
feel about that?
I don't know. I just feel like Jurian like knew a lot of what was going on, and like he had like talked to them and stuff, and like he disclosed that he was like a good guy and stuff. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe they had a conversation that we just didn't like hear about or something. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just made sense to me, I guess, because Jurian was also like there for a while when they were with Tamlin and stuff. So I'm like, I feel like Jurian maybe found out also because they were like so close to the Spring Court, because like he was with the humans too, like across the
Right.
border. So I don't know. It just kind of made sense to me. Um, that maybe that he knew something had happened to her at least. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and then especially so they see the child of the blast, that girl, and her Farrah's still main priority, find Elaine, save Elaine. But now that they intercepted Jurian, she's now like, okay, could I also save her? So Jurian tells her where Elaine is and like that she's being chained in the tent.
Hmm.
And she asked him a favor, which I'm surprised he did. Like, I'm surprised and not surprised because I knew, like you said, he's from the human lands. Like, he has that connection still. So he felt for that child of the blessed, right?
Right.
So she asked him, we're gonna go save Elaine. You make a distraction, or I think he even offers that. But can you get her down? Bring her with us.
Hmm.
And I thought that was a big ask. And again, just shows how much Farrah is selfish because she wants to go in. She's determined to save Elaine, but she takes the opportunity to also save someone else. And that's huge. She could have just been get in, get out. Nobody would have noticed. But taking that girl is going to set like some bells off. So she's taking a risk, but she does it because it's the right thing. It just
So yes. And like but I don't know. I thought it was really stupid, honestly. I was like, you're risking everyone right now. Like you're like she was risking Jurian, like Tamlin was there, right? And like that became a whole thing with him. And like it was just I thought it was just such a huge risk, especially because like she was tied up, she was in front of everybody, like it just seemed like an unnecessary risk. And when they're like fighting against everybody, not that like one life is not worth it or whatever, but that just felt like a risk that like wasn't smart to take. Like maybe they
right.
could have like saved her like after they defeated Hybern or something, but this just felt like, let me just tell you I'm here, basically. Like, I don't know. To me, it felt kind of like just not a smart move, I guess, like on her
I
part.
I mean, I kind of agree, but it shows her character that she's gonna make stupid decisions just to save people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it ends up being a bad decision because then, of course, everyone's on high alert. So they
Yeah.
run towards this cliff that Jurian says has like I guess a hole almost. You right? You can say like a hole in the shields, and they can get out of it that way, and she can
Right.
winnow out that way. And as they're getting there, though, Jurian is there and he got the girl out and they grab Elaine and they're running towards the cliff and she gets hit with an ash arrow. Right. So instantly
Right.
they know they're not going to make it because can't winnow all of them. He can't carry all of them with his wings. And the ash arrow kind of like saps her powers almost in a sense. Like
Hmm.
she can fly, but she can't do the things that she needs to do. But then out of nowhere comes Tamlin. So how did you
Right.
feel when he comes back into play? Like, what did you initially think he was going to do?
Did think he was gonna help. Like, I did. I'm like, I don't know. He was so like tough to figure out, I feel like in this book, because you're like, do we trust him? Do we not trust him? Like, is he trying to do the right thing? Is he not trying to do the right thing? Is he trying to do the right thing, but he just has no idea what he's doing? What's
Right,
going on? But no, I did like I was hoping, I was like, yay, Tamlin, like come in, do a good thing, like help them out.
right.
So I was like hoping he was gonna help them. What were you thinking? Were you thinking he was gonna like
I
hurt them or
I think he was going to intercept. I didn't think he was going to help as much as he did. I think he was going to give her the chance to run away, but like
yeah,
he fully like had to jump in 100% to help them.
right.
Because we know that no matter what, he's still in love with Feyre. There's still
Hmm.
part of him that will probably always love her because she not only saved his life, but his entire court's life, right?
Right.
From Amarantha.
Yeah.
So in the sense, she's always going to be tied to him in that way, and he's always going to appreciate her and love her in that sense. Will he ever fully get over her? I don't know. We'll see. But I did know just because of that, I knew he was going to help in some way. I guess I just didn't see him risking everything, which he does, because
Yeah.
he's the only reason that she gets through that hole with the other three, because Az is hurt, she has the ash arrow,
Yeah,
and she just
Shiro.
doesn't have the
Right.
strength to
And
make
she
it.
just doesn't have the strength to make it. Yep. Yeah, she wouldn't have made it without him. So, no, I was really happy. And I was like, all right, Tamlin, like, maybe you're okay. I don't know, because I feel like he's not like a bad guy. He just makes poor decisions, is what it is. So,
I
yeah,
agree.
he's just not making good decisions. But this felt like a good, like, Tamlin, like, redemption moment. So, I
Yes,
liked that.
yes, I completely agree.
Hmm.
So luckily they made it out and they get back to camp, and what are they called? The Court of Nightmare soldiers are there. They have a special name, but I can't think of what it is right now.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is.
It's fine. And they're there. Az has to get healed because he got his wings ripped up. And then he carried, even though his wings were all messed up. And he's like, remember, he's told you're not supposed to fly. And like just the fact that they even put that in the book, I knew like he's gonna do it. He's gonna
Yeah,
do it. You don't put
right,
that in there like as a little tidbit if he's not gonna be like, no, just kidding.
right.
I don't know about you.
I'm
Those
gonna
are
do it
always
anyway.
the things I notice, like especially like in movies. If they put something weird in, I'm like, that's coming back. That doesn't fit this scene. That's coming back. Or like that doesn't fit like a war scene. That's coming back.
Right,
Like you tell someone not to do something, it's probably gonna happen.
right.
Um, but she that's when they also have that connection with Moore, right? That
Hmm.
she doesn't like men, that she's into females, that she only sleeps with men to so people don't look close, right? And it's still the mind-blowing scene, and then we know we've talked about it before that like Az doesn't know. Like
Right.
he's the shadows and he doesn't know. But at least they have that conversation and they open it up, and I think that really gets them closer to knowing each other. Like she really knows. And I don't know. I mean, we'll have other conversations about more, but I like this scene, but I don't know. I'll have to talk to you more about that. We'll start once you finish the book. We'll start our conspiracy theories after of what's gonna go down. Um, so so it just kind of solidifies their bond, and now they're like really truly good friends. They're open and honest with each other, and they know everything. So after that, they know that Hybern's on the move, right? They're marching, the King's playing the march right into the human lands, um, to split Feyre and her sisters up, right?
Yep.
He kind of like wants to punish them for everything that they've done. And he's gonna go after her family because he thinks that she deserves it, right?
Yeah.
So they need to get the cauldron, and so Amaranth came up with this plan that says that her, Feyre, and her sisters are all needed when they get the cauldron, because using the four of them who were made, because Amaranth again was made, that wasn't her original body, they can use themselves as kind of a conduit, and so that it doesn't kill one of them and binds
Hmm.
the king, right? Kind of like stop him from using the cauldron, stop him from using his powers, and then they'd have a really good chance of winning this war.
Right.
So that's their plan coming up. as the war is getting closer, they decide they need to save as many humans as they can, right? And they spend all night winnowing around the village. And they just keep grabbing humans and bringing them, and they basically exhaust themselves and they're
Right.
tired. And at the end of the night, when they've passed out, they're tired. Feyre is just sitting there in bed, right, thinking, and she knows it's still not going to be enough. They
Right.
need more. They need more to help them. And that's when she makes the ultimate decision to go to the Court of Night and Years and look in the mirror, right?
Right.
Um, I don't know about you, but I was like, you should have done this from the beginning. Like I guess it had to be like that big of a we're not going to make it. I have to do it now. But I thought personally, like you already knew this was coming. You knew it
Right.
was going to be this bad. I am surprised it took her this long to do it. I don't know how you felt, but
Yeah, no, I felt like that too. And I also just like, I don't know, I had a feeling the bone carver knew it wasn't going to destroy her, like
right,
somehow. Like the bone carver like knew that.
right.
Or that like she would survive it. Like I did feel like she was going to survive it.
And I think there is something with the bone carver and Feyre. I just think there's something more to those two than he's leading on. Like he needs Feyre for something, not just to get
Hmm.
out of the prison because he doesn't really want to get out of the prison unless he knows he's
Right.
not going to die. So that's
Right.
why he needs Feyre. Like there's something about Feyre that's going to, when he gets out, he's not going to fear death, right? And he
Yeah.
talks about it before. He talks about in the previous book about not going to when she's going down there to talk about how she escaped death and what it felt like because when she died under the mountain, he really was intrigued by what she felt, how she felt. And that was just like something's going on. I don't know how you felt. Like, did you
Yeah.
feel like he is almost in a way, a sense, like using Feyre? Like you said, he knew I
Yeah.
think he just knew that she was going to survive the mirror,
Yep.
but like,
And
I
he
don't
needed
know.
her to do it for some reason.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why?
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
my question. Why did he need her and where is this going to go?
Yeah.
So she goes down and she climbs down a winding staircase of 1,000 stairs. And we're going to get back to that later. Make a mental note. We need to talk about that later after your next book. And it leads
Okay.
to the mirror and she looks into it, right? And she sees this massive beast. And she thinks it's behind her, right? This beast is going to come and it's going to kill her. And then why did she even come down here, kind of thing. And then she realizes the mirror is showing her herself, right?
Hmm.
It's showing her a reflection of what lies underneath her skin. And that's like the big thing is it's
Yep.
showing her her inner beast, her inner worst thoughts,
Yep.
what she truly looks like when like it's all torn away.
Right. The
And
worst parts of herself. Yep.
correct. But she survives it. And I think honestly, it's because she already knows, she
Yeah.
already kind of knows the worst part about herself. She knows that she was willing to kill those young Fae in order to save the man she loved. Like, so she
Right.
knows the worst parts of herself already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think she does. And I also think like she kind of almost is like proud of it. I don't know. I feel like she's like, yeah, I'm a badass. Like, I don't know.
I
I
agree.
feel like she's kind of like, I don't know. It's just her reaction to it was kind of funny to me. Like, I felt like she was like, yeah, okay. Like, she like embraced it. Like, she
Right.
wasn't trying to fight it. So, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I thought it was kind of funny. But I
I
was like,
agree.
it's a different reaction.
Well, and I also like, especially because after all of this, and she like gets it, she goes to the bone carver and he's like, okay, thanks. Didn't really need that. I just wanted to make sure you did. And I was like, dude, like,
Right?
what are
I
you
didn't need
doing
that.
to me? Like, you
It
just
was
put
just a
her,
test. Like, that's all it
yes,
was. Yeah.
It was a test. I mean, luckily she passed the test and he's going to fight for them. But it's just
Right.
like, come on. You could have just
Yeah,
said it from the beginning.
right.
Um,
Well, this is like Reese's test of having her go to the go get the ring
true,
too, right? Like,
true.
what are we doing here?
Though her wedding bands, though he doesn't tell her that.
I guess so, yeah.
This poor girl. Stop putting her through trials, people. Just let her live her
Right?
life.
Yeah.
Um, so so now that we have the bone carver locked in, the war has started, right? Hybern
Hmm.
marches into the human lands and they're destroying them as they go. They find that he destroyed Farah's family estate, right?
Hmm.
And they know that like they have to like fight back. So then the battle starts. They go to face Hybern, they're outnumbered, and then Farah reveals her new tattoo, right? And she says it's her maiden gift to Rhys. And it shows the four phases of the moon, and then it shows that she has the bone carver and Bryaxis fighting on their side. And then Leaf, Reese almost like chuckles, right? And he goes, well, I have one for you. And sure enough, the Weaver pops up. And I'm like,
Yep.
awesome. Our heavy hitters are here. Like, it's going to be good. And
Right?
so the fighting just starts and it's bloody. And there's three horn sounds, right? As they're fighting, and three armies appear, and it's Barons, the humans. Tamlin's finally shows up. We're like, about time, right? You're like, this is like your court right here by the human lands. Like, about time you're doing something. And then, or Barons, sorry, Barons is the bottom court. And then Grayson, the humans come as well. So we're finally all together. We're finally on the same pan. We need to kick Hybern's butt.
Yep.
And then this is when Farah's whole plan starts to come into play, right? Farah, Amryn, Nesta, and Elaine, they decide when the fighting is in the peak, that's when they're going to go in and steal the cauldron because they
Yep.
have to stop Hybern from using it. Plain out and simple. We know that if he keeps using it, we're all dead. And
Right.
as they're going, Nesta feels the cauldron being stirred, right? And it's just a gut wrenching moment. You're like, we know something bad's going to happen. We don't know where it's aimed. But then they realize it's going after Cassian and all of his soldiers, right? And
Hmm.
I have listened to Audible or audio of this, like people reenacting it, and it's like the worst scene ever because she
Oh,
just
wow.
the way Nessa says his name is just so devastating. Like she's screaming for him, right? Screaming because she knows he's going to die. She's never going to see him again. And so he like flies to her and as when he gets to her, his entire group of soldiers is gone. Just wiped clean out of the face of the earth. And I know, like, I have the same mixed feelings. He survived, but
Right.
he kind of survived just because Nesta helped him. And I don't know. It's a scary, but I do want to talk about a theory I saw just literally like 2 days ago. So I'm like, we're going to talk about this because it happens at this scene. So at this scene, right,
Hmm.
Cassian should have died, correct?
Yeah.
Like if Nesta hadn't screamed at him, he would have died along with the rest of his soldiers. And we
Yep.
know that Elaine has predicted that Cassian would die with like it would take less than like his broken bones and some scars, right? I think this way how he refers to it. And she goes, no, it wouldn't take less than that. And technically, this wave from the cauldron would be less than that, right? It's kind of just like a you're gone. Like there's nothing he could have done to do it. And because Nesta is seen as like this death god, right? The bone carver insinuates like he thinks she's has to deal with death.
Hmm.
Here's my theory. So the theory, or the I shouldn't say my theory. The theory was that Cassian is now safe because Death herself intervened and therefore changed the prophecy Elaine made. I don't know how you feel about this, but I had to bring it up
Maybe.
because I'm hoping that it's true. I mean, we
Yeah, no.
know that characters get killed off, but I'm hoping that means he's safe for the rest of the books because
Yeah.
I'm like, when she comes out with her next book, and if he dies in this, I'm gonna be very upset. So, but how did you feel like after hearing that theory? Like, do you think it makes sense, or am I just going off in La La Land?
No, I think so. I think it does make sense. Because yeah, that would have made sense for that scenario, right? But yeah, if that's true about Nesta, then yeah, maybe he is safe now. So I mean, I hope so because I love Cassian. So
Right?
I don't want to like get my hopes up too much here, but but hopefully.
I know. It's just like, thank goodness that she did that because
Yeah,
she saved him.
she did. Yeah.
Um, but because they stopped moving, because they paused for Cassian, he uses it again, right? That whole little scene with them slows them down, even though it's a really sad scene. It slows them down enough that Hybern uses the cauldron again and kills the bone carver, right?
Right.
And that was so upsetting. But I'm going to bring up another theory. I'm going deep in these theories, girl. Um, I heard another theory which makes sense because we even talked about this that he just something with Farah. He wants to know how she survived death, right? How did you make it? How did you come back? And her thing was the bond with Reese, right? What did
Right.
he just get with Farah? A bond.
Oh.
So I think he was going to bond with her all along because that might allow him to come back from death. Like, we don't know if this happens right away, and we don't know if, like, when this will come out, but it is a good theory. He was so willing to leave the place that he never wanted to leave, that he felt like home when he bonded with Farah.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
when he bonded with Farah, he was like, yeah, I'll go fight with you. As long as
Yeah.
like it's a bond, because anyone who makes a deal or a bargain in Reese's court, it becomes a bond and it's permanently tattooed on your skin. And I
Huh.
don't remember, you have to correct me on this because you just read it sooner than I did. Did they ever mention the tattoos gone?
No,
You
I
know what
don't
I'm
think
saying?
so.
The bond
Yeah.
with Reese broke and her tattoo disappeared.
But I don't know if they talked about the tattoo at all.
Well, that
So,
was the tattoo down her back, right? For by I can't say his name right. By actress. I'm sorry.
yeah,
She said it
I
wrong.
don't know. Well, but I don't know if they mentioned it after he died.
I know.
Like they
I'm gonna have
mentioned
to
it,
like
but yeah,
when
I'm
you
not.
read the
I feel like
next,
now I have to look it back up again because I'm like, I don't think
right?
so.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you read the next two, you need to keep that in the back of your mind because I'm gonna be so
Yeah.
excited if this is right. Because it just made so much sense to me. Because why was he willing to take such a big risk he never wanted to risk before?
Yeah. Well, and I just like felt like he knew he was gonna die. Like I
Right.
just had a
He
feeling he
knew.
just knew it. Yeah, because he was just so willing to go, like you
Right.
said. So yeah, I wonder if he was trying to like kind of see if he could cheat death, almost like
Yes,
test to see if he could cheat death. Yeah, interesting. No, I didn't like. Well, I've never heard that theory before, but that makes sense.
it does
Um,
because he was so interested. How did she survive? She survived because his
yeah,
bond with her bond with Reese, and he was bonded to Feyre.
yeah, interesting. All right, well now I'm gonna have to like really pay attention to
Right?
it.
But
Yeah,
anyways, obviously that was super devastating.
yeah,
And that they end up saying, Feyre ends up saying, me and Amber are going to go to the cauldron, right? We're going to go alone. We're not going to go with my sisters. And then a horn blast. And this scene is so happy and sad all at the same time, right? Because
Yeah.
an armada is on the ships appear in the horizon. More of
Hmm.
Hybern's ship, and their stomachs just drop. There's like, we can barely survive the ones that are here. There's more coming. But then they hear another horn, right? And this other horn, and they see thousands of winged soldiers headed towards them and an armada. And it's their dad. Their
Yeah,
dad, like, literally has come to save the day.
I know. I loved that part. I was like, oh, I was so excited.
Right? And the best
Yeah.
part is he's on the three main ships and they're named after his girls. And he's on
Yeah.
Nesta. And he's coming to save the day on the ship named after his first daughter because no matter what any of them thought, he loves them and he's going to do everything he can to protect his girls. So he was
Yeah.
never on trips, right? He was never trying to do some merchant thing. He was going to that lake to get that other queen and get her help and find everybody.
Yeah.
I can't. It was like the best. I was like, yes. Like,
I know that had to be one of my favorite moments, I think, in this book. Like, I really, really loved that. And like, I have been wondering forever, like, where is their dad? Right? Like,
correct.
where has he gone this whole time? Where has he been? You know, like they just keep talking about like, "Oh, yeah, he's off doing this merchant thing." I'm like, it's been a long time, like a really long
Right?
time. Like, what
So
is he doing for so long?
I usually see things in books, right? I didn't see this coming. I really thought her dad was just like, I mean, he didn't step up her, like, basically her whole second half of her life.
Right.
I really thought he was just out there, you know? And nope,
Yeah. No, I did too.
nope. He was going and helping them all along. That he
Yeah.
discovered that other queen, that the queens were traitors, and then he went to get an army for his girls. And I just yes. Like, yay,
Yeah.
Pop Archeron finally stepped up for his girls,
Right.
about freaking time. And then
Yeah.
Vasa is there, that's the queen, and she's in Firebird form. And she then, because they made this decision that Farah can't risk her sisters, she can't see any more people die that she loves. It's just going to be her and Amryn. Nesta makes the decision to be the bait. Do you remember that? So
Yeah.
she goes, I'm going to be the bait that draws out the king. She goes, I'll draw out the king. You can break in and you get the cauldron. And this was like a little bit of an arc for her character, right? She hasn't really done much. She's kind of a thorn in everyone's side. She hasn't stepped up to the plate, really, in my
Yeah.
opinion. You might have a different opinion. And this is the first time she's like, I'm willing to help. I'm truly willing to put it all out there. How did you feel?
So yeah, I felt like this was like Nesta's moment to like actually do something helpful. You know, she had like several things they were sort of building to, but this was like her actual moment to be helpful. And I also felt like she was the best person to be bait because Hybern like had been searching for her, right? Like he'd been looking for her. He also like she threatened him when she went into the cauldron, right? So I
Mhm.
feel like she was the best person to be bait as well because she was the one who was going to grab his attention the most.
Right. And the cauldron is basically broken because of Nesta, right? It's not to
Right.
its full power. If he had used it at its full power, it wouldn't have just wiped out like chunks of the army. It would have just
Right.
wiped out everybody. So
Right.
he's especially interested in getting her back because he wants to give the cauldron back what she took, right?
Right.
So she pretends like she's about to use her powers, which is the same feel as the cauldron. So she knows the king's going to know. Cassian's going to stay with her to protect her. And Nesta and Amryn go, or not Nesta, Feyre and Amryn go to steal the cauldron.
Hmm.
On their way to like get there and waiting for the king to come out and go after Nesta, they run into the Weaver, right?
Right.
And surprisingly, the Weaver offers to help them, right? We know she's helping them in general, but just the fact that right here at this moment, she's going to help them again.
Yeah.
And it ends up costing her her life, right? And it was just,
Yeah.
I just felt like the Bone Carver and the Weaver didn't get the death they deserved, you know? Like,
Yes. No, I felt like that
they,
too. I'm like, these are like huge, like powerful beings, and they were just
yes,
like, okay, you're gone.
100%.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
no,
just
I
like
completely agree.
wipe the Bone Carver out with a wave.
Yep.
And then she does create the distraction they need, but the king just goes out and like just snaps her neck, like she's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like, oh, it just made me upset that she
Yeah.
dies so easily and she's just like supposed to be this god in a sense. So it was just
Yeah.
kind of like she didn't get what she deserved. She should have went down like fighting like 50 of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
but because of the Weaver and Nesta, the king does leave, right? He
Hmm.
goes and he goes out looking for Nesta and they can sneak in. So Feyre and Amryn reach the cauldron and Feyre puts her hand on it. And that's when we find out about the betrayal, right? Amryn never had the intentions. She plans to use the cauldron herself. And it's just such a sad moment because when I
Yes.
first started reading it, I thought Amryn was killing Feyre. I thought she was like big bad turning on them because Feyre can't let go, right? At this moment, Feyre can't
Yes.
let go. She can't release the cauldron. She
Yes.
thinks, and so she's kind of thinking the same thing, like Ammon's betraying us all. I'm gonna die. Rhys is
Right.
gonna die. Like we're all gonna die.
Yep.
And that's like not it, right? But while
Yes.
she's attached to the cauldron, she sees things that are happening on the battlefield, right? Like it kind of like almost gives her the sight like a lane in a sense, but
Hmm.
it's like current sight. So she sees Race fighting for his life. He's turning into his beast form. Then he sees the rest of them shift into their beast form, right? Because all the High Lords have a specific beast form to
Yep.
themselves. The Tamlin's the only one that can shift others and can shift himself into different things, and that's where she gets her shifting powers from. But all the High Lords have a beast type form that they can take to when they're fighting. And then she also can see that the king has locates Nesta, right? That
Hmm.
the king is with Nesta and he's he's got Papa Artron, right? And he has the thing that Nesta does and doesn't care about, you know? How did you feel about that scene with Nesta and her dad?
Like, it was so frustrating because like their dad like finally came back in the picture and is like there to help and stuff. And then like it's just so quickly he's taken away again. Like he ends up getting killed. And so
Mhm.
it was just so frustrating. And I feel like, yeah, that I don't know, they didn't have like a reunion that would have, I don't know, like, thank you for coming and saving us, type thing. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I was so happy. Like, it was one of my favorite moments when he like came in with the ships and everything. And so, yeah, it was very frustrating. Yeah, how
Mhm.
did you feel?
I agree. It's just, it was so sad because, I mean, he makes the statement that he's like, I loved you. I've always loved you. I loved you from the moment you were put in my arms. And I'm like, I'm gonna cry because it's like so real that like even though he knows he messed up as a dad, he wants
Yeah,
her to know because he knows he's going to die. You can just tell. And he
yeah,
wants her to know that no matter what I did, I loved you. And I've always loved
right.
you. And I hate Hybern so much. Nesta ends up begging for him. she says, please don't kill my dad. I'll give back what the cauldron I took from the cauldron. I'll give it back. And he still ends up killing her dad.
Right.
And it's just like that was heartbreaking because she was willing to give it up to put it back. And he's just like, "Mm, I don't care. I'm still gonna kill your dad." And it's
Yeah.
just like, ah,
Yeah.
it was, oh, I hated that moment.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
and it just, like I said, like it just happened so quickly too. It was like,
mhm,
hey, here's your dad. And then like it was not very long after, like pages after, like he's dead.
uh-huh,
Like, what? Like he just came back into the picture here. Like we didn't even
correct.
get to like connect with him again and feel, like hear about what happened. So
And
yeah, I would just, I don't know. That it was so sad. Like, yeah, it was like I was really tearing up at that point. It was so sad.
especially because I know things happen, but I paused it. I remember pausing at the scene when I first read it and thinking, because we're watching this through Feyre, right? In the cauldron. And all I can
Yes.
think about is she never got a goodbye. Like,
Yeah.
she never got to, like, he was away every time she went to visit her sisters.
Yeah.
So she never really got that last moment with her dad, you know?
Right.
Ugh, ugh, like, oh.
Yeah.
But then the devastating part happens and they're fighting him. And Cassie is fighting him and he's losing. He's losing bad, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
getting jacked up all sorts of ways. And Kyburn steps on him and breaks his wings, right?
Yes.
And Nesta finally like explodes with her power. And she misses, like he winnows out of the way. And I'm just like, how do you miss? You have all this massive power and you
Right.
miss. Like, I know he winnowed, but in the long run, you still missed, you missed. And now
Right.
you have to deal with the consequences. So they keep fighting. And it's just, she takes this Cassian sword and she's going to go kill King. And he flicks it out of her, but then she finally lands a blow, right? She finally gets him and she sends the bolt of power into him, sending him flying back, right? And what I want to know your theme because she hits the king and she runs to Cassian. What were your thoughts about that part?
Don't run to Cassian. Like go finish off the king. Like what
Correct.
like what are you doing? Yeah, no,
Like,
I was panicking. I'm like, they're just gonna die together now. Now they're just gonna like he's just gonna turn around and kill them both. Like, okay, great. Now we're losing everyone.
right? Because
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. And I was like, why are you, no, like, go get him. Go get him. Like,
You
you
get
didn't
him
kill him.
once and you're just like, all right, we're done.
Like, we know
No,
he's not
yeah,
dead.
no.
Go chop off his head. Like, that's rule one
Right,
of like killing immortal beings is you got to chop off the
right,
head. And she
right,
doesn't do it. Um,
right.
but I mean, he ends up, they have this beautiful moment together, which is great because he says that he has no regrets, even if they get no more time together. He doesn't regret the time that they had together. He just regrets not spending it the way he should have, spending it with
Yeah,
her and loving her like he should have. And as the king goes to kill them, right? He stops. And this the most surprising thing I felt happened because honestly, for a while, I forgot she was even there, right?
yeah,
Is that Elaine sees a blade through his throat, and it's Elaine with Truth Teller, who she gets from Az, right? Az gives Elaine his sword. That was a big thing. And she
yeah,
uses it to stab the King of Hybern. So then
right.
Nesta, because she
I
promised
forgot
the
she was there
king,
too. It's funny that you said
yeah,
that because I was like, oh yeah, she's still there. I forgot about that.
right? Like I'm reading the scene and I know she went with Nesta, but like up
Right.
until that point, I'm like, oh yeah, she was there, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Like poor Elaine. She's always kind of a bit thought. But Nesta gets up and goes to the king and she grabs the blade and twists in his back, and then she beheads him, right? And
Right.
that was what she said she was going to do. And it's kind of gory in the fact that like she lifts the heads up and stares at it. And
Yes.
I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
it's a little aggressive on your side."
Right.
But she completed her promise. When she went into the cauldron, she
Right.
was going to come back for him, and she did. So
Yes.
finally, he's dead, right? And I'm sitting there as I'm reading this book, right? And he's dead. But there's so many more pages left. And I'm like,
Yes.
wait a second. Like,
What else
when
is
the
going to
bad,
happen here?
right, when the bad guy dies, the story's supposed to be over. Like, that's it. Um, and it was just crazy to me that that's not that it wasn't the end. Like the
Right.
to me in my brain, the army should have just ran away. The king is
Yeah.
gone, armies run away, soldiers give up, or they even fall because there's nobody controlling them anymore. But that's not what
Right.
happens. In the grand scheme, they're still getting overwhelmed, right? Without the
Yes.
king, they're losing. They're losing. They have Beatrice, they had the weaver, they had the carver, they have um all of these other armies joining them, and they're still losing. And
Right.
that's when we finally go back to Feyre and the cauldron when Amren reveals her plot. What did you feel about it?
I was very unsure of where it was going because I like, I don't know. I really like Amryn and like seeing her like turn on Feyre and like not say what was happening and like, and she says like I'm sorry and I'm like, what is she gonna do? Like what's gonna happen here? Um, so yeah, I don't know. I was very like nervous. And also I think like you said, there was a lot left of the book. I'm like, is Amryn gonna be like the new like bad guy that they have to
Uh-huh.
try to defeat her now? Like, and she's like terrifying, right? If she's not on their side. So I was like, what's going on here?
Right.
So
The
yeah, I
way
mean, how
that was
do you feel?
written was just so well because it made you doubt. And
Yes.
then you find out that it was all because of Suriel. The Suriel told Feyre to tell Amryn to look on a specific page, and it never had anything to do with stopping the cauldron. It had
Right.
everything to do with how to unbound them from their mortal, well, I guess immortal, but mortal in the sense for them bodies, because eventually Fae do die. They just take forever to die. But
Right.
she wasn't a true immortal body before this. And that page reveals how she can go back to her state. But we know that if she goes back to her state, she's going to forget everything she's learned. She's going to
Yep.
forget who they are. Will she turn on them versus turn on Highburn? And so there's a risk. There is a risk that she won't remember and she could just either leave and not help them or she could kill everyone. We
Right.
don't know. And this part always makes me sad is when Varian comes in, right? Her like lover, and he like begs her not to do it.
Yeah.
And she does it anyways. And it's just like, it's so sad that because she even says to him, like, I've learned so much and I've seen humans in her world, and she used to watch them. And she tells Varian she thinks she learned to love him. And then she goes into the cauldron, like,
Right.
oh, I was like, oh, poor Varian. Like this guy
Yeah.
who truly loves Amryn the way she is, begging her, please don't kill yourself. Like, well, not kill yourself, but please don't like do this because like you might forget about me and forget about everything. I'm like, oh God. This book made me cry a lot, but just wait, girl. When you get to Kingdom of Ash, it's a nightmare. I've never cried so much in my life. Um, so be prepared. But it was just like, oh, it broke my heart.
Well, and I just felt, I don't know. I was also just like not sure because obviously like we weren't sure what was going to happen, right? Like I was like, is she gonna just turn on all of them? Like,
Right.
I I don't know. This didn't feel like a saving type moment, I guess. Like it felt like
It was a
just
risk.
yeah, well, it was a
Mhm.
risk, but it also just felt really selfish, like
Yeah.
of Amarin. Like I just felt like she just wanted to like not, get her old body back or whatever. And so I don't know. I was just like, she doesn't know for sure that she's gonna help them with this.
Right.
So I don't know. I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I feel like I still don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it ended up working out okay, but she didn't know that that was going to happen. It just felt like she was like,
Correct.
I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to let you all just deal with the fallout of this. And like, if I can help you, I'll help you. But like, oh, I'm going to help you. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. I'll say that.
I agree. But luckily, when she goes into the cauldron, right, she destroys it in a sense. Like,
Yeah.
not only does it unbind her, but it breaks the cauldron into three pieces. So, at least in a sense, even if it goes terribly wrong, the cauldron's out of commission. There's
Right.
no using the cauldron as of right now. And then they describe seeing Amryn in her true state. And then she's like a burning goddess. She has wings and a crown and flaming hair. And but like she kind of looks at them, and like you can tell she's just otherworldly. What
Mhm.
is she going to do, right? And
Yeah.
thankfully, she goes after Hybern, right?
Right.
She wipes them all out.
Yeah.
And then the worst part is they describe it as she fades away, right?
Yeah.
She literally wins the war and fades away to nothing because she's burnt all of her power, killing all of Hybern. And I just don't know.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I was really sad about it. Yeah. Like I was like, I don't know. I felt like that was like a real awesome way for her to go though. Like that just felt like that. So we talked about, like the deaths of, the bone carver, and the weaver, like just not being like justified deaths. And like this just kind of made sense, I guess. Like it
Yes.
was like, it just felt like a very like powerful moment for her
Hmm.
and like a powerful like death and like I don't know, just very, I don't know, like a death that like honored her and who she was.
Correct. Like that's the death
So
I feel like the bone carver and the weaver deserved.
yeah,
Like they deserve
yeah,
to go out in a flame of glory. And I feel like
yeah,
they didn't. I feel like they just got like, boop, like you're dead.
yep, yeah,
Um, so like you again, there's pages left, right? You're like, what is gonna happen now? Like,
right.
and Feyre turns to the cauldron, and what they thought was going to be a good thing, the cauldron is broken, it's out of commission, ends up being the worst thing that could happen. Because Feyre looks into the cauldron and she sees, I think she describes it as like a void. Like it's just this nothingness that is going to destroy everything. Like
Hmm.
it's going to basically undo the whole world because the cauldron made the world, right? The
Right.
cauldron and the mother made the world that they all live in, and you
Yep.
just broke the cauldron. So, in a sense, they just unmade the world. So
Yeah.
Rhys was like, we have to put it back together. We have to mend it. And Pharaoh was like, I don't have enough to do this. So then Rhys stands behind her and gives her his energy to mend it, right? So she
Hmm.
keeps pulling more and more from Rhys. And he says, I love you, right? And the cauldron's fixed. And she fixes it and she turns around and Rhys is on the ground dead, right? Or he's dying. And I just, I don't know about you. Like, there's certain people I know that just aren't going to die. I don't know how you felt, if you felt like he was in danger, but I just knew like there's no way she's killing off Daddy Reese. I refuse to read any more books if she kills him off. Like, we're done. Like, I will never pick up another ACOTAR book if you kill off Daddy Reese. So I just felt like I knew he was going to be safe. How did you feel?
I was like crying like when that
Oh
happened. Like
no.
I was like, what is going on right now? Like I was super, super upset. Um, I'm gonna have a real hot take in a minute though, when we talk about what happens next. So
Okay.
uh, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
But no, I was like I was like full on crying, and my husband was in the room and he's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I can't even tell you about it right now." Like I was just like a wreck. It was really funny. Um, but yeah, no, I was like super, super upset. And I felt like, I don't know, that had to be so terrible for Feyre to know that like she was the one who took the power from him too, right? Like
Right.
that she sucked all of the energy out of him and sucked all of the power out of him. And that like essentially she killed him,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
Um, but then she turns out the High Lords, which I thought was weird. They just all end up showing up at this exact moment, right? Okay,
Right.
cool. But she turns to them and she says, "You're going to save him. You saved me, you're saving him," right? And the High Lords are going to bring him back. They did it for her, and they're like, "Well, it's not the same thing. You were human." And
Yeah.
she says she doesn't care that you're going, basically, like, you're gonna do it anyways. Um, so Tarquin is the one that goes first, right? So he goes first, and then the others. And then they have to explain to Feyre how to do it herself, right? Because she is a high lady now. She's a high
Right.
lady. She has the High Lord's powers. She can also give it herself. And then Tamlin comes and she begs him, right? And she says she'll give him anything. And surprisingly, he says to be happy. And he like gives
Yeah.
his little kernel.
Yeah.
So how is that?
I
That's your hot
loved
take?
that. I no, it's not
Oh,
actually. I did love that. Like I loved that Tamlin did like that he didn't demand anything from her and that he did do that. No, my hot take is that I was pissed they brought him back.
really?
That's my hot take. Yeah. I was like, we can't just keep killing people off and bringing them back. Like this can't keep happening. I'm like, I that's my hot take is like I wish you just hadn't killed him in the first place. But I'm like, and it happened so I was so frustrated because I was like, she killed him off and then he came back like so quick, like so fast after that. And I'm like, it's the same thing that happened in the other book. Like, honestly, I was just very frustrated. I was like, that's my hot take. And then later, Amryn comes back and I'm like, no, like, just no. Like, so I was actually very mad that both of them like made it and they survived and everybody was just like happy and whatever. And I'm like, no, like not that I wanted them to die, but like, yeah, I'm like, it just feels I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. It didn't feel like good writing, if that makes sense. Like to just be like, I'll just kill him off and then I'll bring him back. And like you
right,
said, like you knew he wasn't gonna die permanently, right?
right,
But yeah, I don't know. It really frustrated me. I was just like, why are we doing this right now? Like, why
right.
do this and then undo it in like a page?
Right. I
So
do agree. I mean, obviously, I want him to save her to save Reese. So I was okay with that. But I do agree bringing Amryn back as well. I felt like it was a little stretch.
yeah,
And I'm going to say this because now we're doing our annotating book club, and you're going to now read Fourth Wing over, which is great because then you're going to do Fourth Wing and then Iron Flame, and then
yeah,
we'll be ready for Onyx Storm, which we'll do some videos about. But it, in a sense, like there was a interview, I guess you could say, where everyone assumes this is what she does. It was like a little dig from Rebecca Yarros to Sarah J. Maas that like someone brought up the theory that um Violet's dad was the Venom and he didn't really die. And she goes, no, he's dead. And then they're like, well, is Lehman really dead? And no, they're like, no, he's dead. She goes, I don't bring people back from the dead.
From the
And I was like, oh, she's definitely calling you out. And like you said, like in a sense, characters do need to die for the
yes,
book, right?
yes,
I didn't want Reese to die, obviously. I just felt like that would be a horrible ending to what is supposed to be a romance book. A romance book is supposed to get a happy ending with the
right,
main character's love story.
right,
But when they brought Amryn back, I did feel like that was a little bit of a stretch. Like that was a really beautiful death for her. So,
yes.
like they kind of like
I
took away
honestly
that
felt
death.
like, yeah, I felt like it was like a disservice to her character, honestly, because I felt like she like sacrificed herself and it like took away that sacrifice. Like I was more frustrated with that. I will say I was more frustrated with bringing Amryn back. But even Reese, I was just like, well, but let's just not kill him, like let's just not. Like, how about we just don't? So, like, I was just like, this is just not, I don't know. Like, I'm not an author, right? Like, so it's not my whatever place
Right.
or whatever. But I just feel like that was not good writing, like to do that. So, and especially like in the exact same way as what happened with Feyre, it just felt like coincidental. And the fact that Tamlin was just like, yeah, sure, here you go. Like, I don't know. It just felt
Right.
um, like, I don't have a better word for it, like lazy. I don't
Yeah.
know. Just like,
I
yeah,
think she
it wasn't
wanted
good character building and like, yeah,
right. I think she wanted to mirror how she dies and like Reese was willing to fight everyone to save her and she in a sense does the same thing for him. But you're right. It was just kind of like we've been here already. It would have been
yeah,
bad like if he passed out and she thought he was dying and she used like her blood to save him or she just
yeah,
gave
like
some
that would
of
have been fine.
herself. I agree.
Yeah, that would have been totally fine. That would have been
Right.
okay. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't like how it went down. And I also feel like he could have just been severely injured and she could have saved him or something. Like,
Right.
not like
Right.
you're dead and we're going to bring you back to life. Like, it's like you just can't keep bringing people back from the dead. I don't know. I was very frustrated. So I'm like, this is going to be
Especially
like a real hot take right now. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to take it, but
so the only thing I can say about Cameron, which another thing I thought was terrible, they gave her a beautiful death. She was this big
yes,
god, this immortal being,
yes,
controlled lives kind of thing, had her own world. And she comes back and now she's nothing more than a normal fae, right? She is
yeah,
no longer superpowered Amryn.
yeah,
Like she's just an average J Joe now. And I was like, you took away her beautiful death and made her like a basic bee, you know? Like she doesn't have
yeah,
anything like there anymore for her.
yeah,
Um, but it still leads back to my theory about the bone carver because she found her way back as they were sealing up the cauldron, right?
yeah,
And the carver was bonded to Feyre. Did he also follow that path back through the cauldron as they're amending it? And we just don't know it.
yeah, maybe.
I have to know. Like I need to know. And especially when you go through Throne of Glass, which I'm gonna demand you do, sorry. Um, just be prepared. It's a lot of books. Um, there's another like theory that I'm going to like incorporate into this one that deals with what happens to the Throne of Glass. And I'm excited to talk to you about that. But in the grand scheme of things, we survive, right? Everyone
Yeah,
survives. We've made it. We do get the happy ending. And they know that they're going to be together forever.
yeah,
So,
basically.
in the long run, I do think it was a very happy ending. What I don't like, and you'll find out why later, but I just didn't like it to begin with, is they made the bargain at the very end of the book, right, between Feyre and Reese. And it was basically if you go, I go. And I I guess I was like, oh, okay. But part of me in the back of my mind was thinking, but what if you end up having children? You know, you're
Yeah.
just gonna leave them parentless because you make this bargain. I
Well,
don't
and
know.
also
How
like,
did you like it was sweet, but in the back of my mind, I was like, I kind of don't like this, guys.
yeah. Well, and my other thought too was like they're being terrible leaders as well. Like they're like the high lady and the high lord of the night court, right? And like they're just like, right, we only care about each other and we're just if something happens to one of us, then we're gonna abandon you guys. Like we're both out type thing.
Right.
So I'm just like, this is not great leadership here either, guys. Like, yeah, no, I was thinking about the child thing as well, but then I was like, this is not good. Like, this is not showing that they care about Valaris. And I like that
Mhm.
didn't sit well with me either. Like, I'm like, clearly you don't care about them. Like, not that they should care about them more than their person, but like just sort of giving up on life because, they're gone and like abandoning everybody else. I don't
Right.
know. That doesn't sit well with me. So, yeah, no,
I
I wasn't a
agree.
huge fan.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Also because like the bone carver like was showing them their future child too, right? So
Hmm.
it's like they are gonna have a future child, so they're kind
Right.
of know that that's their future. So
Right.
I
And
don't
I
know.
mean,
Yeah,
like, they want to spend that time together first. They want to, like, enjoy their mated years before they have kids. But, like you said, we know they're coming. And,
right.
like, you're just putting that
Yeah,
risk up of, like, okay, we're both gone, though.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Agreed.
so now you get, which is perfect timing for you, I feel like. You're gonna read the novella. You already started it.
I did.
And
Yeah,
it's like the perfect Christmassy time book because the whole
yeah,
premise is about they're celebrating like a celebration that's very similar to our Christmas. So I'm interested to see how your thoughts on that one. It is like it's not a controversial book, but it's the book that people usually rate the lowest. So I definitely can't wait to talk about it. And then you're gonna get into the next one, and I'm super excited when you get to A Court of Silver Flames. Um, that one has a whole bunch of controversy. I don't know if you've no, don't look into it, but
no,
it is a huge controversy, and I'm excited to go through it with you because I know I have my opinion on the book, and I'm really excited to hear about your opinion.
yeah. No, it'll be fun, and I'm glad like that. The next one, the Court of Frost and Starlight is coming like at Christmas time, and I also just feel
Mhm.
like I need a palate cleanser a little bit.
Yes,
So like
that is the
I
good thing
might
about
like
it.
it. Yeah, like I might like it more than like I would have if I wasn't reading them so quickly, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yes.
But
It
I've
gives
been
you a
reading
nice
like
like,
they're
ooh.
yeah. Yeah, I need like a decompress. Like I actually like sort of paused on reading them for a little while and I'm like, I'm gonna wait a little bit. I need a little breather after the book. So honestly it might like I'll be interested to see what happens because I might like it more just because I feel like I need that little palette cleanser and with the holidays things get crazy so it's like it's kind
Right.
of a good time to do a lighter one that's shorter. I'm just excited it's shorter honestly. So
Yeah.
like it's like I get a little taste of it but it's not like a full-blown let's rip your heart out type thing.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. So, book lovers, if you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and join our community of fellow bookworms.
Because here at Bound by Fantasy the adventure ever ends. See you next time.
Bye, guys.